The news cycle screams operational failure because Iran fired on ships, then immediately told U.S. advisors they made a mistake. But in realpolitik, admitting an error while holding the keys to 25% of global oil is not weakness. It is a high-stakes signal designed to trap Washington into negotiation rather than war. This admission flips the script from accidental shooting to controlled escalation, proving that Tehran can turn the tap off, and only they have the power to turn it back on without triggering a conflict America cannot afford to fight. When leaders announce sanctions or kinetic strikes, the headline is rarely the whole story. The question is, who designed the incentive, who cannot afford to walk away, and what option still looks rational on each side? Today, we read this move as strategy, not as a morality play. The timeline between March and April of 2026 reveals a deliberate shift from kinetic disruption to strategic signaling that most observers are missing entirely. Following U.S.-Israel airstrikes in early March that killed Supreme Leader Khamenei, Iran declared an immediate closure of the Strait of Hormuz within 24 hours. Drones then targeted 5 commercial vessels regardless of nationality, including Chinese ships, proving Tehran could strangle global trade at will without needing to declare formal war. The critical pivot occurred not in the firing itself, but in what happened next. The admission that they made a mistake was not an apology for losing control, it was a demonstration that they still held it. By admitting fault after demonstrating lethal capability, Tehran told Washington, "We can do more damage if provoked further, but we are willing to stop now if you talk." This reframes the conflict from operational error to strategic signaling. If Washington thinks this is an accident, they will escalate and trigger a war Iran may not want either side in. But if Washington understands it as a signal, they must negotiate on terms that allow Tehran to exit without losing face. Quick resource note. I keep a curated set of Amazon search links in the description for books, gear, and tools relevant to this channel's topics. Some are affiliate links, so I may earn a commission at no extra cost to you. Please consider supporting the channel by using those links if you find something useful. This strategy relies heavily on U.S. political constraints rather than military superiority alone. While the Iranian IRGC believes they can outlast American endurance, betting on a 20-year freeze versus the United States' preference for short-term solutions, Washington faces its own credibility trap. President Trump fears ground troop casualties more than economic disruption from oil prices. The admission is an invitation to exit the escalation ladder without losing face, betting that the U.S. prefers ending the war over escalating further into a land conflict it cannot win quickly. To understand why this matters for global markets and security, one must look at the data surrounding the choke point itself. Roughly a quarter of all global oil flows pass through the Strait of Hormuz, making its closure an economic weapon with immediate worldwide consequences. The impact was stark during the period between April 17th and April 20th. While official announcements suggested the strait had reopened for traffic, only 13 tankers managed to transit that entire 4-day window, while hundreds remained stranded in the Persian Gulf. This disparity proves that the threat is not just theoretical, it is a lever Tehran can pull at will. The confusion was intentional. On April 17th, the foreign minister announced a reopening of the strait, suggesting de-escalation and stability. Yet 24 hours later, on April 18th, the IRGC reversed the decision and reimposed the shutdown entirely. This flip-flop was not confusion or internal disarray, it was a feature designed to signal that the closure is under Tehran's direct command rather than an uncontrollable spiral of war driven by rogue elements. If they were truly out of control, they would have been unable to reverse course so quickly. Instead, this inconsistency demonstrates their capacity to disrupt global energy flows while offering a path out through negotiation, betting that Washington prefers ending the conflict over escalating further into a quagmire. For viewers tracking how great power competition plays out in real time, this illustrates why standard news coverage often fails. The narrative of Iran messed up and now they are scared leads to expectations of immediate collapse or inevitable retaliation. In reality, Iran has successfully weaponized the confusion around their own actions. By admitting a mistake, they force Washington into a difficult choice: treat it as a genuine error which implies weakness and invites further probing, or accept it as a negotiation tactic that requires concessions on sanctions or security guarantees. The stakes extend beyond bilateral relations to include global trade partners who are now caught in the crossfire. Of the 187 vessels that successfully transited since early March, over half were operated by companies from just 4 countries, highlighting how regional instability translates directly into supply chain shocks for major economies. The Iranian leadership knows this leverage is finite but potent. They believe they can endure economic pressure longer than U.S. political endurance allows their leaders to sustain the public relations fallout of a prolonged war without ground troops. Ultimately, the conflict has evolved from an operational mistake into strategic signaling, where Tehran shows it controls the switch for 25% of global oil. The admission was not an error. It was the only way to signal that they are ready for war but prefer peace on their terms. It creates enough chaos to force negotiation while offering a clean exit ramp, ensuring that when the dust settles, Iran remains standing with its core demands addressed rather than destroyed in a cycle of mutual destruction. Thanks for watching all the way to the end. I am a one-person team working hard to make each video better than the last. Subscribe if you found value. It is the best way to show support. Drop a comment with your biggest takeaway. See you in the next video.